Hello and welcome to Dr. Shafi's Senior Advice. Today, we're going to talk about something really personal and important. What occurs when you masturbate on a daily basis? Let's explore this difficult topic with the help of an experienced and sympathetic elder male doctor. This topic is not about passing judgment or stigma. It is about knowing your body, mind, and general well-being. Let us investigate this with knowledge and attention. As we progress through life, certain things are typically kept in the shadows, rarely mentioned but constantly speculated about. Masturbation is one of such topics. Most individuals have had this experience at some time in their life, but it is shrouded in secrecy, stigma, and questioning. You may have asked if this activity is healthy. Are there any hazards if this becomes a regular habit? Or is this just another aspect of our innate nature that we are overthinking? I want to reassure you that being curious about your body and behaviors is not only natural but also indicative of self-awareness. Understanding what works best for you, both physically and psychologically, is essential for leading a balanced and healthy lifestyle. This discussion will go into the medical, psychological, and even relationship consequences of regular masturbation, all through the viewpoint of an older male doctor with decades of experience leading people to better, more fulfilled lives. However, this is not only about science or medical advice. It is about establishing a safe area where we can openly discuss something that affects us all, without fear of being judged or shamed. So, if you have any queries or worries about this habit, or if you just want to learn more, stick with me. Let's deconstruct this together and discover the answers you've been looking for. Let us begin by understanding what masturbation is and why it is so important in human existence. Masturbation is a normal, universal behavior. It's something that almost everyone does at some point in their lives, regardless of age, gender, or background. Despite its prevalence, it is frequently cloaked in mystery and myths. Consider this. A man in his late 50s recalls on his early years, noting how he fell into this pattern without truly comprehending it. He had no one to talk to about it, and cultural taboos made him feel confused. Was this normal? Was it healthy? Years later, he still carries those unresolved questions. Does this sound familiar to you? So, let us clear up some of those doubts right now. Masturbation is a natural method to explore your body, relieve stress, and even boost your mood. It's a safe pastime that avoids the dangers of sexual intercourse, such as sexually transmitted diseases. Both men and women partake in it, although the causes and frequency vary greatly based on personal circumstances, emotions, and life phases. Some people use it to relieve tension after a hard day. Others use it to connect with themselves, particularly when physical intimacy with a partner is not available. It is critical to understand that masturbation is neither necessarily good or evil. It all depends on how it fits into your lifestyle. However, if it becomes a regular or even more common occurrence, doubts begin to develop. Is it still healthy? Might there be unexpected consequences? And if so, how will you address them? As an elderly, wise doctor may remark, recognizing your body is the first step toward caring for it. The goal is not to judge oneself, but to be interested and mindful about your behaviors. So, whether you do this activity sporadically or on a daily basis, the focus should always be on balance. After all, like with most things in life, having too much of something wonderful may lead to problems. Now that we've covered the fundamentals, let's take a closer look at how regular masturbation impacts your physical health. This may cause you to wonder, if it's so natural, are there any hazards involved? Well, like most things in life, moderation is essential. Let's start with the positives, since there are plenty. When used in moderation, masturbation can provide several bodily advantages. For example, it may help your sleep. The release of chemicals such as dopamine and oxytocin during an orgasm might induce a sensation of calm, allowing you to drop off more quickly. It's also an effective stress reliever, letting the body to release tension built up during the day. For males, it supports healthy blood flow, which is necessary for sexual function and prostate health. For women, it can help strengthen the pelvic floor muscles, which are essential for reproductive health. Masturbation, when compared to other sexual behaviors, is a relatively safe activity. It does not carry the danger of sexually transmitted illnesses or unwanted pregnancies. But what happens if it gets excessive? This is where some issues originate. Let me tell you about a gentleman in his 60s who came to me as a doctor. He had experienced pain and discomfort over time but was unsure why. It turns out that frequent masturbation, along with inadequate lubrication, was causing skin irritation. This is a typical problem that can be easily handled with appropriate care and moderation. Another aspect to consider is desensitization. Over time, repetitive and excessive stimulation can lessen sensitivity, perhaps making other types of sexual action less enjoyable. This does not imply lasting harm. It is usually transitory and may be reversed by taking pauses and lowering frequency. There's also the issue of energy levels. While orgasm normally leaves individuals feeling calm, repeated ejaculation, particularly among males, can cause temporary weariness. The body needs time to recover energy resources, so overdoing it might leave you feeling exhausted rather than revitalized. However, the good news is that these bodily consequences are typically reversible. Your body is extremely robust. If you experience soreness or exhaustion, reducing your activity and allowing your body to rest is typically sufficient. As a good doctor could remark, your body is an instrument. It requires balance and attention to remain in tune. Listen to it. It will lead you. Now that we've discussed the physical elements, let's look at the psychological effects of everyday masturbation. This is where things become a little more complicated since our thoughts are inextricably linked to our habits and emotions. Allow me to tell you the story of Robert, a man in his late 50s. After retiring, he had more free time than ever before. Initially, he used masturbation to unwind, but as the weeks passed into months, he observed a trend. When he was bored, anxious, or even lonely, he turned to this habit to fill the emotional hole. He gradually lost control, and it became something he relied on rather than enjoyed. This takes us to the first major psychological impact: stress alleviation versus reliance. Masturbation may be a beneficial method to relax and reconnect with oneself. However, if it becomes the go-to answer for every instance of stress, worry, or boredom, it may gradually develop into an unhealthy habit, similar to grasping for a crutch, rather than learning to stand on your own. Instead than addressing the main causes of stress, people may turn to masturbation as a coping method, leaving underlying issues unsolved. Shame and guilt have their own psychological consequences. Let's face it, social taboos and cultural standards around masturbation can cause some people to feel uncomfortable or even ashamed of their behavior. This is especially typical among older folks who may have grown up in an era when these issues were not freely discussed. But here's the truth. Guilt is typically more harmful than beneficial. Masturbation is a normal component of human biology, and seeing it as such might help ease unpleasant sensations. Then there's the issue with pornography and unreasonable expectations. For some people, regular masturbation is associated with excessive pornography usage. This can lead to false perceptions of closeness, making real-life relationships feel less gratifying since they do not match the exaggerated circumstances depicted online. Over time, this can diminish trust and connection in interpersonal interactions. So how can you approach this from a better perspective? The key is self-awareness. Consider if you're engaging in this habit because you want to or because you feel compelled to. Consider if it adds to or detracts from your life. If it feels like a crutch, it may be time to look into other stress management strategies, such as mindfulness, hobbies, or meaningful social interactions. According to the wise doctor, your habits shape your mind in the same way that your mind shapes your habits. Choose practices that promote clarity and serenity. Now that we've covered the physical and psychological elements, let's look at the social and relationship consequences of everyday masturbation. While this behavior is highly personal, it does not exist in isolation. It can impact how we interact with others. Allow me to introduce you to Paul, a man in his early 60s. Paul has always treasured his connections, particularly with his girlfriend of over 30 years. But over time, he recognized that his isolated habits were replacing the connection he formerly had with his wife. Instead of conversing, joking, or spending quality time together, he found himself withdrawn into his own world. It wasn't deliberate, but it caused a schism that began to damage their relationship. This takes us to the first major issue: isolation. When masturbation takes precedence over spending time with loved ones, it can cause feelings of loneliness and detachment. While the behavior is not necessarily dangerous, it might indicate that underlying concerns like boredom, a lack of connection, or unresolved emotions require treatment. The second effect is less closeness in partnerships. Sexual intimacy is an emotional tie between lovers, not merely a physical one. When masturbation becomes a substitute for this connection, a spouse may feel ignored or distant. Over time, this can damage trust and happiness in a partnership. Then there's the issue of communication failures. Discussing personal behaviors such as masturbation may be difficult or even taboo, especially in long-term partnerships with established patterns and unwritten limits. However, ignoring these interactions might lead to misconceptions and animosity. For example, one partner may feel upset or insecure if they notice the other withdrawing emotionally or physically, even if it is accidental. So, what can you do if you identify with these challenges? Everything boils down to communication and balance. If you're in a relationship, make an effort to be more open and honest. Begin with a light discourse, one that is not weighty or judgmental, but rather built in inquiry and compassion. Explore each other's needs and discover methods to restore the connection that connects you. Even simple gestures, such as spending more time together or organizing shared activities, may rekindle connection. If you are single, consider whether your habits are impeding your ability to socialize or build deeper relationships. Could you use that time to strengthen friendships, foster family ties, or pursue new interests? Loneliness is often remedied by reaching out rather than retreating. As the wise doctor would remark, relationships thrive on connection rather than perfection. If you notice yourself drifting apart, start by taking little actions to mend those relationships. Now that we've covered the social and relationship implications, let's speak about identifying when masturbation crosses the line from a healthy behavior to something more problematic. As with anything in life, awareness is the first step toward achieving balance. Let me tell you the tale of David, a 58-year-old guy who found himself trapped in a cycle he couldn't quite break. He initially observed that he was spending more time alone. Then he noticed he was missing hobbies, avoiding social gatherings, and even putting off work assignments since his habit had taken over his calendar. What began as an innocuous activity has begun to interfere with his obligations and relationships. David felt something had to change, but he wasn't sure where to begin. This leads us to the first red flag: interference with everyday tasks. If your habits are leading you to disregard your career, family responsibilities, or even personal ambitions, it may be time to reconsider. Remember that a healthy habit should enhance your life, not detract from it. The second symptom is choosing masturbation above meaningful relationships or activities. If you find yourself putting off spending time with loved ones or skipping things you used to like, it might be an indication that the habit is becoming more isolating than gratifying. Another key red signal is a lack of control. ask yourself, do you feel that you can't lessen the frequency even if you want to? The feeling of being trapped can be irritating and may signify a larger problem. Finally, consider the emotional toll. If your behaviors are accompanied by emotions of shame, guilt, or discomfort, you should take a deeper look. These feelings can have a significant impact on your self-esteem and mental health. The good news is that identifying these symptoms is a significant start in the right path. If any of this rings true for you, consult a counselor, therapist, or trusted medical practitioner. There is no shame in asking for help. It demonstrates strength and self-awareness. As the wise doctor would say, feeling out of balance is a signal to realign your routines with the life you actually want to live. Let us now hear the perspective of an older, knowledgeable male doctor, someone who has gently and understandingly guided numerous people through similar encounters. The experience of a professional who has seen the effects of this behavior over decades can bring clarity and certainty. Dr. James, a seasoned physician in his late 60s, frequently states that the act of masturbation is not the issue. It is the environment that matters. He underlines that moderate masturbation is a natural and safe pastime. Problems develop when it becomes obsessive or associated with undesirable habits, such as excessive pornographic use. One of the first ideas Dr. James makes is that moderation is essential. He frequently uses this analogy. Think of it like eating your favorite dessert. A slice here and there is enjoyable, but eating the entire cake every day may leave you feeling sick. Balance helps you to enjoy the advantages while avoiding the drawbacks. Dr. James also dispels several fallacies about masturbation, particularly those related to aging. Some people are concerned that frequent masturbation would lead to a loss of vigor or possibly reduce their lives. But Dr. James reassures them, your body is extremely adaptable. Masturbation, even on a regular basis, will not deplete your life force or impair your long-term health if done in moderation. Another key issue he addresses is the link between masturbation and pornography. He says that excessive pornography may skew expectations of intimacy and establish unrealistic standards, potentially affecting real-life relationships. Dr. James has this advice. If you notice that you're relying on pornography, try to step back and reconnect with what intimacy means for you in a deeper sense. Dr. James emphasizes the need of taking breaks to recover sensitivity. Constant stimulation may eventually lead to desensitization, but this is typically only temporary. The body responds well to rest, he explains. If you feel like other forms of intimacy or pleasure aren't as fulfilling, consider taking a step back for a few days or weeks. It can make a world of difference. Finally, Dr. James suggests that patients reflect on their routines and match them with their ideals. Healthy habits are about more than just your physical health. They also benefit your total well-being. He suggests, ask yourself if this is beneficial to your life. If not, don't be afraid to seek help or make adjustments. Dr. James's knowledge boils down to this. Masturbating is not an issue. It's about how it fits into your lifestyle. When approached with mindfulness and balance, it may be a healthy and natural form of self-care. Let me tell you the tale of Arthur, a guy in his late 60s who wanted to make some adjustments. For years, John felt trapped in a pattern, and his habits began to control his nights. He didn't despise the habit. He just felt physically and emotionally depleted afterward. One day, he made a decision. I'm not going to give this up, but I'm going to make it a smaller part of my life so I can enjoy the rest of it. Arthur's first step was to set restrictions. He decided to measure how often he engaged in this habit and made a concerted effort to decrease it. It wasn't about depriving himself. It was about keeping the habit from overshadowing other aspects of his life. By being aware, he felt more in control and balanced. Arthur then began to look at different solutions. He resumed activities that he had abandoned for years, such as gardening, carpentry, and even regular walks in the park. These pursuits offered him a feeling of purpose and fulfillment that extended beyond his lonely habits. Physical activity, in particular, emerged as an effective stress reliever and boredom buster. Another shift John made was to focus on genuine connections. He contacted old acquaintances, spent more time with his grandchildren, and even scheduled date evenings with his wife. By putting relationships first, he found the delight of shared closeness and genuine connections. He discovered that these times provided a sense of contentment that no one activity could match. Arthur also educated himself on sexual health and mindfulness. He discovered that taking breaks from masturbating helped restore sensitivity and provide a fresh sensation of pleasure. He didn't view this as a limitation, but rather as a method to keep things interesting and balanced. The crucial message is that balance does not imply quitting a habit. Rather, it entails incorporating it into a full and varied existence. Like Arthur, you may start simple to establish a regimen that works for you. Try setting boundaries, trying new interests, or strengthening your relationships with others. These improvements may appear little, but over time, they may revolutionize your life. As the wise doctor frequently says, life is about harmony. When your habits are consistent with your ideals, they increase rather than decrease your happiness. We've covered a lot of territory today, and I'd want to thank you for joining me in this chat. It's not always easy to talk about personal issues like masturbation, but recognizing these behaviors is a step toward living a happier, more balanced life. Masturbation is a natural and healthy aspect of human sexuality. It provides physical and psychological advantages, including as stress reduction, improved sleep, and optimal sexual function. However, like any habit, it is critical to approach it with balance and attention. When used in moderation, it may be a beneficial component of your self-care regimen. However, if it begins to interfere with your everyday tasks, relationships, or emotional well-being, you should investigate more. Recognizing indicators of imbalance, whether reliance, solitude, or guilt, does not imply criticizing oneself. It's about knowing where you are and where you want to go. You've also learned the value of incorporating this habit into a fulfilling and diversified existence. Setting boundaries, trying new activities, and emphasizing genuine connections may help you ensure that your habits serve you rather than rule you. And remember, there's no shame in seeking assistance or direction if you're feeling overwhelmed. It's a bold step toward living with intention. As the wise doctor could remark, life is a journey, and every habit you adopt is like planting a seed in the garden of your well-being. Choose the ones that blossom into serenity, pleasure, and contentment, and nurture them with love. Thank you for taking part in this interesting conversation. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more inspiring discussions. Feel free to share your views or experiences in the comment section. We're here to learn and develop together.